Once upon a time, North American League of Legends was simply watched by more people than its European counterpart. But last weekend, we saw some viewing figures that seemed to bring back the old meme that the LCS is dying. Now, even some pros are talking about the matter. Let's dive into it. Look, I know I've been saying we're so close to 2 million subscribers for quite a while now, but that's because we've been so close to 2 million subscribers for quite a while now. So if you want me to stop saying that on repeat, make sure you're subscribed to theScore Esports. And also, if you enjoyed this video, leave us a like on your way out the door. Cheers. So we're in the middle of League of Legends summer playoffs right now in both Europe and North America. And there are some things that both regions have in common. Over the weekend, both regions had some really hype games that went the distance. In fact, out of the 7 best-of-5 series we saw in North America and Europe, 5 of them went to 5 games. But in some ways, this is where the similarities end. For some people, a glaring difference was viewership. At one point during the simultaneous broadcast, if you were to go to League of Legends on Twitch and see the LEC and LCS viewing figures, you might have thought there was a glitch. At a point where the LEC was being watched by over 120,000 people, the LCS was struggling to pull in a meager 10,000. Now, some people were saying this is just confirmation of a trend that's been discussed for years at this point, that the LCS is dying. But is that actually fair to say? Well, there are some caveats to those numbers. First, the LEC series between Rogue and Mad Lions was well into Game 5 of an incredibly close series. People will tend to tune in to watch these absolute nail-biters. Not only that, but going into the playoffs, Rogue and Mad Lions were the 2nd and 3rd seeded teams, and this game would give one of them a guaranteed spot at Worlds, so stakes are pretty high. Compare this to the LCS, where we had the 4th and 8th seeded teams in Game 1 champ select of a lower bracket scrap where the immediate prize was simply playoff survival. And putting those caveats to one side, it's also not been all doom and gloom for the LCS recently. The past few weeks have seen the LCS make headlines as it continues to break its peak viewership record for this summer split, culminating with over 246,000 peak viewers during the recent Team Liquid versus 100 Thieves playoffs match. But then the LEC has also seen new records for the season set during playoffs, and its peak numbers were regularly between 60 and 100% higher than the LCS's. And I know that some of you guys watching this will already be saying, Danny, peak viewership doesn't tell the full story. And that is true. Looking at peak viewership from the regular season, you'd see that the LCS actually fell below most of the other regions, including some minor regions. The LPL's figures are often skewed as they don't take into account China's own stream numbers. And people have quite rightly pointed out that things don't look quite as bad if you rank the regions by average viewership, but still, you can see here that the LCS has only managed less than half of the LEC's average viewership. Alright, that was quite a lot of graphs and numbers in quick succession there, but the point is, things are looking bad for the LCS when compared to its past. Whether or not you look at average or peak viewership, it paints a similar picture. But does that actually mean we can go as far as to say the LCS is dying? Well, there have certainly been a few stories over the past few months that people point to as proof of that. Back in July, there were rumors of TSM selling their LCS slot and moving their league team to Europe, with the decline in popularity of North American League of Legends given as one of the deciding factors. And that same month, Doublelift got in hot water as a co-streamer with Riot for literally saying the LCS was dying while talking about Riot reportedly not allowing Bjergsen to play in Mr. Beast's Ultimate Crown tournament.
LCS is dying. Like, the viewership is absolutely dying. There's no denying it. Everyone knows it. Everyone can feel it. Why would you not let one of, if not the face of the league, play in an event with 2 of the biggest creators in the world? Literally the biggest creator in the world. LCS could not pay Mr. Beast enough to, like, insert one of their players into an event that is watched by so many kids.
Now, Bjergsen himself did not confirm or deny these events, and he certainly didn't come out and agree with Doublelift that the LCS was dying. But in the past week, just as this conversation has been bubbling up once again, he did speak to Dexerto on the matter. He said, well, a lot of things have improved on the back end on the org side to become more professional and support the players in a better way. That might not reflect in the LCS viewership, but that's something that I'm really happy about. I don't know exactly why the viewership might be lower. I don't think it's really my place, but we have had conversations with Riot. They're aware of it and have a lot of ideas on things they can look to change within within the next few years. I'm definitely hopeful that the LCS can bounce back. I mean, I don't think it's dead or dying by any means, but viewership obviously isn't as high as it was 3 or 4 years ago. I think Riot and the teams are going to have to get more creative to get people to care about the LCS and its players again. It's a characteristically professional and diplomatic answer there from Bjergsen, but there are some takeaways for us to look at. Firstly, it sounds like Riot is actually admitting, at least to some players and teams, that its viewership has suffered in recent years. And there's also that hint that we're going to see fresh ideas and changes coming to the LCS in the coming years. What exactly could they be? This year, the LCS celebrated its 10-year anniversary. Their summer promo video reflected this landmark. It featured a lot of old LCS pros: Voyboy, Shifter, Doublelift, Sneaky, Xmithy. These are legendary names to anyone who's been watching the LCS since its inception. And I think this might give a clue as to what Riot is thinking. They recognize that those veterans represent the golden era of the LCS, a time when every year seemed to have more viewers than the last. I talked to one of my colleagues here at theScore Esports who felt that it was a bad look to feature so many old pros in a promo video like this, that Riot should be focusing more on the here and now. But I think Riot is recognizing the two key things that have been missing from the LCS recently when compared to those golden days: stories and personalities. Maybe I'm seeing it through rose-tinted glasses here, but it feels like in the past players spoke their minds more. There was a bit more of an edge to things and genuine rivalries going on. The players, the teams and the storylines felt unpolished, raw and real. Viewers see that and fall in love. That's how they form decade-long attachments to these players and teams, and then they tell their friends, and then the whole thing continues to grow. No amount of flashy hype videos with manufactured storylines about players that don't really talk that much are going to push the needle back to where it was. So Riot's task here is a big one. They have to manufacture an ecosystem of personalities and stories that people just cannot look away from, but it has to be done naturally. It's an unenviable task, but it's certainly doable. As someone who's been a long-suffering LCS fan through thick and thin, I'd love to see NA finally turn a corner. These orgs, they need to have something more to offer. They need to have more of a personality to them, something that people can latch onto and say, this is my team. Like, I'm going to stick with these guys through thick and thin now, and they're not going to flake away after a few, rough splits.